Brought it inside too.
Hey, everybody, welcome to the Unconventional Therapist Guide to Nothing. My name is Dave, and I'm joined here with my co host. His name is Greg, and this is his episode today.
Oh, Dave.
This is Greg's episode.
It's my idea of
It's
an
your episode,
episode
Greg.
that I thought maybe this, and you know what? I'll take it. I think it's important. But before we get into this, Dave, did you used to watch Fraggle Rock?
Yes, I did. Yes, I
So
did.
you know how there's like the uncle, I think Red's uncle, and he would like be the little traveler, and he would go to all these little adventures and write back.
Sure.
I feel like that's our relationship sometimes. You're often in the world on these little excursions and just sending me like little pictures and ideas and things from where you are. So I thought it was interesting where you were this week. As a huge fan of like American Pickers and all things kind of antique and thrift, I guess.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, you tell us a little bit about what you did this
Yeah.
whole week.
So I was at Brimfield Antique Market. We had a booth there. So we were not just there as patrons, we were there as vendors, which is a really interesting change of pace because normally I'll go there maybe once or twice during the week and just kind of look around, see all the good stuff they had. But this time I was unable to do that for most of the week because I was sitting there peddling goods and
Going in cash.
it was interesting. And I went back today and did some browsing. Um, but yeah, it was a much different version of the Brimfield experience. So for anyone who doesn't know what Brimfield is, it's like one of the larger antique flea markets we have here in the U.S. And it goes on for a full week, and it's like just so crazy how many like vendors they have. It's like an entire main street. It's like miles long. There's food, there's drinks, there's music playing, just but like the amount of vendors is just overwhelming. It's if you actually stop at every single, vendor and browse a little bit, there's no way you get it done in a day. If you're
Hmm.
there for like one specific thing and you're just kind of like quickly trying to get through it, you can do it in a day, but your feet are going to be very damn tired.
If you
Uh,
put them like vertically, they would reach to the moon.
yeah,
They might. I don't know.
maybe. I don't know.
I
I
don't know. There's
wonder
a
if
lot of
they
vendors.
would.
I just like
What's
that
the
there's
math
that
on that?
much.
I don't know.
I like there's that many like antiques and people out there who like old and appreciate
Well,
old kind of
and you
dusty
know what?
thing.
There's a lot of interesting aspects about it. So one of them is the market, like what people are looking for, what's driving people to go there changes all the time. So like one year there might be this really popular thing that everybody's into. Like one year it might be like taxidermy. Another year it is totally different. Like one year it was marbles. Everybody was selling marbles. That
Hmm.
became really popular again. I'm trying to think. Then like Victorian morning hair. Do you know what that is?
No, I don't.
We should do an episode on like Victorian mourning stuff, but like it's literally they take hair and they make like a wreath out of the hair, and it's like from mourning someone who's passed.
Oh, mourning someone that's passed. I thought it was like just like hair you put on when you wake up.
Nope. Yeah, mourning hair.
Yeah.
You could put a you could
I
put a
hear,
passed
I
away's
hear the word
person.
hair and I perk up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's that's a really interesting aspect, and then like the people you meet there, and like the people that do antique life is crazy. Like the vendors and stuff, like their lifestyles are nuts. They just drive around going like one, show to another show, and
A
what a
carny
lifestyle.
lifestyle.
Yeah, it's
Minus the
crazy.
cigarettes and the meth.
And then the interesting people, collectors and casual people, like the amount of people I met this week was insane. It
That's
was
awesome,
it was
man.
a lot
I'm
of
glad you
fun.
had a good time. I wish I could have done something like that, but I couldn't. Anyways, back to the episode. Now, Dave, there nothing grabs you like the word aphorism, right? I mean, it's
Oh
just
yeah, that's everybody's tuning into this episode because they saw the title and they're like,
it,
that's one I need to listen to.
what's funny is you said that when I said, "What about aphorisms?" and you're like, "Oh yeah, everyone loves that." Um, and I feel like I sense some sarcasm,
I
but
think
who knows?
nobody knows what that
Right.
is.
But
Yeah.
here's the thing. I've changed the name. Words to live by.
Okay.
Now that's catchy, right?
Sure.
So, like this idea, first of all, we both use the hell out of quotes. and quotes are important, but aphorism is something that's a little bit different. And the idea kind of came to me. I was like, I was kind of aimlessly like browsing through Instagram as you do, old man TikTok, right? Like the reels, they're popping at you. And there's this comedian, and he's talking about like the importance of words, and he says, first he's talking about like sticks and stones, and like, people have this idea that words aren't that important, but it's just not true. Like words become spells where like you say the right words to someone and it completely shifts their mood one way or another. And we talk about all the time how the way we talk to ourselves matters like a great deal, and the way we talk to others matters, and this can be inspirational or detrimental. Like just your words can be so impactful, and I think that aphorism is this, well, what is it? It's this, I guess it's an observation that contains a general truth, but it's usually about life, and the good ones tend to be concise and elegant, like if in terms of like the authors that use them, Oscar Wilde, very elegant, very concise, but profound. So these short little memorable expressions of basic human truths. And it's to me it's like a therapy session in a sentence. It's really like every therapy session almost should end with one of these aphorisms because it's that thing that you walk away with and say, "Wow, that stuck with me. That stuck with me." And I was talking to someone who was an addict in their past. This is a good friend of mine, and we were talking about a party that they went to, and like, well, how did you like manage to go to a party like being, having been an alcoholic in the past? Was it tempting? You ask these questions, you wonder. And they said, I just kept saying to myself, have a plan. You have a plan, right? And like those three words, have a plan, meant so much and were so powerful that they guided the behavior. So like these things, yeah, they're short little cool little quotes, I guess, but there's something that have been very useful to people for generations, in some cases millennia. You know what I mean?
So
So go
I
ahead.
don't want to end my therapy session with an aphorism
Right.
because um, I just spent an hour talking to a person. I hope that's not the only thing they take away from that hour.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah, no, I know, I know.
that's kind
And
of, isn't that also like, I get what you're saying. Like, that's great that we have these. They definitely can, speak so much in a very short amount of words. It sucks that like we spend so much time talking to people and then it takes like a catchphrase.
well, unfortunately, I think in a lot of ways that's true. But I'll tell
Yeah.
you what the bright side of that is. I have a favorite teacher, Miss Grimes, and I had her in fifth grade. I don't remember a thing that I learned in fifth grade, but I remember the way this teacher made me feel. I remember how my mood shifted, and I remember like feeling good around them.
You had a crush on her?
Oh yeah, but that's a whole different thing. So the important thing to remember is like
Still
it's
trying
not
to
so much
figure out how
the
that
words.
connects to aphorisms that you had a crush on your teacher.
Yeah. Yep.
You just wanted to
What?
tell her, you just wanted this
What?
opportunity.
Hot for
All right,
teacher. Is that an aphorism?
Mrs.
It is.
Grimes.
Sometimes teachers are hot and sometimes they're not.
Excuse me, Mrs. Grimes, if you're listening. That was Greg just throwing that out there for you.
I think that Mrs. Grimes probably passed away by this point because
UTGN
I like an
podcast at
old.
gmail.com if you're listening and you want to reach out to Greg,
Yeah. Yeah. Please do.
if you're still around.
I will leave my family for you, Miss Grimes. Just kidding. So,
Good thing
Dave,
none of your family listens to this.
I know exactly. I can say whatever I want. Historical aphorisms. So let's start we're not going to start at the beginning because the first aphorisms actually that were written down were actually written by Hippocrates, the father of medicine. So but we'll get to that in a little bit. But Aesop was a very famous aphorist, I guess you could say. And his thing that we all have heard before is actions speak louder than words. And I think like each one of these, and that just little thing, actions speak louder than words. You've heard that, but we probably didn't know it was ASAP, but you've heard it, and like that means so much, and you hear it through. It's like a through line in so many like therapies and philosophers, even Carl Jung. Like you are what you say, you are not what you do. Like right, like that's all Aesop. That's all coming from that simple. Like it seems so obvious, but also it's like whoa, right?
Yeah.
Because it's the truth. That's just kind of how it is. Um,
Well, it's like that thing you always warn people when they're like telling you something and you don't really want to just believe them.
oh my God, yeah. And how about like even in relationships? Doesn't actions speak louder than the words show up big time in relationships?
Yeah.
Or like when you're thinking like, oh, am I in a good relationship? But like this person keeps doing this, but they say this. You know, they say they love me. They say that this is the last time, but people show you who they are. You should believe them. And
But it,
Aesop didn't do that.
maybe it's your fault. Maybe it's your problem. Maybe you just like it's not your love language, and you guys like need to understand each other better.
And
You're
of course,
more of
Aesop
a
was doing this with like two turtles
maybe you're more
talking.
of like a acts of service type person, and they're a verbal affirmations, right?
That's right.
So
That's
maybe
right.
Aesop's wrong here.
He's not though,
It's all how
because you're
you
still
see
talking
it.
about it. All right, Dave, you do it now, and let's kind of like tear one apart.
Why don't you do this next one? Actually,
All right, you want me to do it? All right.
yeah.
So Heraclitus,
Who is
famous
it?
Grecian Heraclitus.
Okay, that's how you say
Uh,
it.
yes, philosopher. Now this is profound. So obviously very simple, obviously very true. And this is how it starts. The only constant in life is change.
Yeah,
And that's comforting in a way, right? Like things are like because change is scary for everyone. It's hard for everyone. We avoid it in so many cases. But what Heraclitus is saying is like, look, that you better get used to it because that's the only guarantee there is.
sure.
That's it.
Actually, I mean, it could be comforting, or it could be like a reality check. A lot of these depend on how you're using them. Like I just said, with like actions speak louder than words. It definitely can be something that like you say to somebody when you want to see something from them, but it's also like something you say as a warning
Yeah.
or as a caution to someone. So a lot of these have like this tonal thing going on where it depends on the situation and how you're using it. But
Mm,
I mean, it's effective either way. So
which
the
is
only constant
beauty.
in life is change. I feel like that's something I might say to somebody who's really struggles with change, right? And it's like, well, there's one thing in life you can bank on is that
Mm,
change is going to happen, basically.
yeah.
So we have to learn, and like trying to help them learn that they need to embrace the change
And show
versus
them how
fighting
their
it.
life has changed and how that's been better. Like you're not pooping in your diapers anymore, which
Well,
is good.
sure,
Or maybe you are. I don't know.
maybe could be.
Could be.
So here's another one by John Baptiste. I believe he was the head of the Tonight Show band for Jay Leno. Is that him or is that another
I don't
guy?
know.
Oh, okay,
I just
John
found the,
Baptiste.
yeah.
No, that's not him. So the quote is: "The more things change, the more they stay the same."
I mean, does this speak to you at all?
I feel like I've heard it 1,000 times,
So when I
but
thought
it's kind of the opposite of what the last one was, sort of. But I
I know,
do
which is,
understand what how the difference here.
but they're both true because think about it. Like, even when you think of like Chinoa
Chinua
Achebe,
Achebe, yeah,
yeah, like that's a tribal sort of historic book, but the people in the book are going through the exact same sort of domestic issues that we go through right now,
yeah.
right?
No, that's kind of what I was thinking too. Just all the historical things that we see. Here's the thing. I also want to look at this in a way that maybe isn't so depressing.
Okay.
Because no, I'm just saying, like in my mind, I want to challenge myself to find a way to make it less depressing because it almost does have that depressing element to it, where you feel like this is often said when something negative's happened, right? Um,
Yes.
I find that we commonly say this when there's been something in society that took a negative turn or some kind of issue, and then we're like, even though we feel like we've advanced so much, here we are with the same issues again.
Which is negative, but also like it's like we are this and nothing, no amount of technology or anything can change that. And like maybe trying to change that is what causes so much anxiety and like, you know, difficulty in our lives. Like we say it all the time, like trying to fit being human being into like societal constructs and work and school and pressures, that's really hard. So it's like we're trying, like we've stayed the same, things have just changed, and that's not great, I think,
Yeah.
you know?
So the only constant in life is change, but the more things change, the more they stay the same.
So these two were different people. And maybe, glass half empty, glass half full. Two things can be true at the same time. A lot going on there, which is
Absolutely.
also an aphorism.
Absolutely. All right. So the next one we got your boy Hippocrates,
Yep.
the father of medicine. What else is he the father of?
He's the father of aphorism.
How do you know
He's the
this?
fa But
Did you do
look,
a
look,
DNA test?
it's look when you if you invent two things as an ancient, and one's aphorism and one's medicine,
Yeah.
I think medicine's going to overshadow a little bit. But look, maybe it
I
shouldn't.
heard that he actually wanted to be known as the father of aphorisms, and they're like,
Yeah,
no, 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 no.
like dude, you got to take the medicine.
Medicine. Dude, we need you to be the medicine guy.
We're trying to give that to Aesop. He's then Hippocrates is like the guy with the turtles and the scorpions and everything. Like,
He's like, his thing sounds redundant. Well,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
come on.
Hit us with one of his thingies.
You can't heal someone if they're not willing to give up what made them sick.
Might be one of my favorites,
I know you say it all the
honestly.
time.
It's so true and in so many different ways. I think of addiction a lot, obviously.
Yeah, if you can't give up the sauce, is that what you mean? Right?
That's what Hippocrates used to say. If you can't give us the sauce, what are we even doing here? You know what I
He's
mean?
like, if you can't give up what makes you sick, and that's the sauce. And I'm not
You
talking about
stay sick.
I'm not talking about your mother's Sunday gravy, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because it's like that is, that could be a relationship, some kind of addiction. It could be behavior. It could be a habit. It could be like an avoidance. It's just true,
Could be
right? If
love.
nothing changes, nothing changes. I guess change is a big factor in this thing.
Yeah. It absolutely change is inevitable. Change needs to happen.
And it
Things
doesn't.
will
We stay the
always stay
same.
the same unless things change. That's my new aphorism I
David,
just made up.
David, you're an aphorist?
Oh my God, I
Wow.
am.
Dave, stop.
All right, the
All right.
next
Let's do
one.
another one for Hippocrates because I like this guy.
Let medicine be thy food and food be thy medicine. Gotta eat.
No, but it's very new age, isn't it? I guess it's old age, but this is what people are saying. Like, it's true. If you watch what you eat, then you don't really have to worry. It's like big pharma. Like, Hippocrates was very anti-big pharma. I don't know if you knew that.
Food is fuel.
Food is fuel. That's
Food
true.
is fuel.
Is that where you're leaving it? That's your aphorism? I feel like you're just sitting there trying to make aphorisms. We could read, we could read
And
other
if you
people.
always view food as full, your gas tank will
Fuel.
never be empty.
Perfect. Perfect.
I'm
Not
leaving.
bad.
I'm leaving right
Not
now.
bad. You know what I mean? It's to me that is something that like a Instagram person could be saying today. Let medicine be thy food and food be thy medicine, right? Like you don't take the pills, just eat right, and you're gonna be fine. And I think there's some truth in
Ooh,
that.
don't take the pills,
The
Greg just
next one,
said.
do
Very
this next one. Let's see.
controversial. Very
Ooh, well,
controversial,
unless
Greg.
you need them. No, listen, unless you need them for sure. I'm all about it.
It is more important to know what sort of person has a disease than to know what sort of person. Let me do this one again. I just messed it up.
Yeah, I
That's
know.
so easy, too.
I know.
It is more important to know what sort of person has a disease than to know what sort of disease a person has.
Hmm.
Yikes.
I can
I
speak to
feel
that
like
a little
he's
bit.
throwing shade at this, like a certain person that he knows in his life. And he's like, that
Mm,
was directed right at some person. And
I know.
everyone
He's
else
like,
was like,
call Heraclitus. That was you I'm talking about.
it's you.
But look, my mom had breast cancer, and I've never seen anybody handle like it's her attitude is always so um I don't know, like this too shall pass, like I'll just deal with it. I mean, she was coming over for barbecues and like her hair was falling out and like having a beer. And I don't think that was
Yeah.
something she was supposed to be doing. And it really made sense like our attitude in these like when we get sick is going to make a huge difference. Like if you fold up, it's going to be bad. But if you're like, I can get through this. So it does matter.
So,
Like you have to
so
know who you're treating.
with the case with your
Yeah.
mom had something. It wasn't that she was viewing herself just as being sick or that
That's
everyone
right.
just was viewing her as being sick. It's like, no, I have this.
You know what her attitude was? Like she was like saying to cancer, she wasn't like, oh no, I have to deal with cancer. She was like, well, good luck. Cancer has to deal with me.
Right.
It's a whole different approach,
It is
right?
totally
Eh,
different.
like, yeah, I'm strong. Cancer, oh, I've got cancer. Well, maybe cancer takes people out. Let's see. It's going to be hard to take me out.
Let
So, I mean, that attitude
I think
is who
that
she is.
that builds mental strength that just is so powerful and can overcome so much. Greg, let me throw this one at you too. We had one of the psychiatric doctors at our practice talked to us, and he said something that I think we both kind of strongly disagreed with in the moment, but I think this he was kind of saying something along the lines of this aphorism.
Let's
He
hear it.
said, any what was it like? Any mental illness can be cured if the person wants to, and if because we were talking about depression,
Yeah.
and I think we brought up a scenario like, what if that's just someone's baseline,
Yeah.
and he was like challenging us, like, no, if they have it, if they're depressed, they can overcome their depression. You just have to figure out what's making them depressed. I still think it's off base what he was saying, but
I
I'm
think it was off
wondering
base
if
because he
he
was
was
talking about it in terms of medication, where it's
okay.
like the medication should fix the depression. That's the
Fix it.
deal.
He
Yeah.
was basically, but I think the bigger takeaway we could have looked at it as was like, so they're not viewing themselves as someone who just has this thing, right? That's like
Yeah.
they're not just viewing themselves as like I'm someone with depression. It's what's a better way to word it that would be the opposite of that. I have depression and I'm going to treat it or something like that. It's like just viewing it differently. And
Yeah, like I'm going to live the life I want to live, and if I have to carry this with me for a little while, that's what I have to do.
yeah, I'm not a
Y-
depressed person. I
Right,
have depression
right.
and I'm going to
And
treat
that's
it.
that's I think that's fair. And I think I do think I think that his problem is he's always means well. It just never comes out right.
Yeah.
And it like throws people off. And these days, and that used to be that was
But
fine 30, 40 years
also
ago.
I think the other problem is he says everything as if it's facts.
Yes.
And
Yes.
we're
Yes.
very comfortable challenging people
Very
that
comfortable,
challenge
challenging. And I think
in
it's patience.
in
It
our
turns out like patients are very comfortable. I noticed that in session a lot.
yeah.
People are very comfortable challenging. Like if you reflect something to them and they're like, no, that's actually not it. I love that. That happened.
Yes, I get
That happened.
I agree with you. Sometimes it takes me by surprise because there's people that
Yes.
you wouldn't always expect to like tell you no, and it's like, oh, okay.
But I'll point that out and I'll be like, thank you for doing that. Like, thank you for not letting me go down that path because now I like understand you a little bit better for saying that.
Yeah. Now
It's
I'm back on
cool.
your journey. Thank you.
Yes. And apparently I'm a terrible therapist and I don't understand what you're saying at all.
I actually zoned out for the last 20 minutes and just
Yeah,
clung to the last
that
three
happens.
words you
That
said.
look, that happens sometimes
It
to
does
people.
not
We're human
happen.
beings.
Never
It
happens.
never happened once.
Don't
Oh,
listen to Greg at all.
okay.
All right.
Excuse me, what
Teddy
was that?
Roosevelt
Yes, go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
once said, comparison is the thief of joy.
Now, give me your thoughts on that. I think that's an important one.
Oh, this I have. All right. So I got, you know, that person that comes in and everything they're saying is clearly a reflection of how they're viewing or seeing the people around them, right? All they're doing is saying like, well, I don't do this, or I don't have this, or I'm look at me, this is where I live, or such and such. What are they doing? They're comparing their life to others and not able to sit back and appreciate where they are. And I think that that can be such a an obstruction
Sure.
to their happiness, right?
Absolutely.
And that's what
Like
I take from this.
like young kids in relationships and like Instagram in general,
Yeah.
like just looking at all the
Oh, that's huge. The social media is like, yeah. And everybody has to remember you have to take a step back and say, this is just a set of highlights
absolutely.
of a person's life.
Absolutely.
This is not their real life. They're walking around looking at other people's lives and having the same insecurities.
Doing the same thing. And you know what's funny? It's like we're biologically sort of predisposed to observe other human beings and observe in a way just to kind of like identify, oh, I admire that about this person. Oh, I like that value. Like this is how this is the values in this community and this is what's important. And so like you look at things that you admire in people and you kind of adopt those into like who you want to be. You're not supposed to just compare your life and be like, oh, I wish that was me and I wish that like my life was that way. And the life that I have right now is, now I don't have any gratitude for the life I have right now because I can see like this person's jacked on a beach with a beautiful family and like we're like just struggling over here. You know what I mean?
Another version of this is people giving themselves timelines because
Hmm.
that timeline is all based on their knowledge of what other people have accomplished by a certain age or what so quote unquote so-called expectation is that you should have of yourself at a certain age. And not to say that people shouldn't have motivation or goals, but like you can't be upset if your situation is not the same as every other person's at that specific age or what you think everybody else is supposed to be. For example, I have this individual that I work with who's, struggles with that because she feels like at her age she's supposed to be married, have starting a family, all that stuff. Meanwhile, she's rather accomplished, good job, struggling a little bit in the relationship department currently, had a really longer term relationship that went south and the person was not good to her during that. But and it's like, at that point it's like you got to have a little compassion for yourself,
Absolutely.
a little patience for yourself too, and not sit there and think about what you don't have, but kind of reflect on some of the things that maybe have slowed you down a little bit and how we're going to work on that going forward, right?
Yeah, like that aphorism, a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. So like that's an aphorism. I don't know who that is. It might be Ben Franklin, but that's a beautiful one that kind of makes sense too. So that's Teddy Roosevelt. Love that one. Hit us up with another Teddy because he was good at these.
Okay. Far and away, the best prize that life offers is a chance to work hard at work worth doing.
I mean, when I think about that, I think of I tried to understand why I loved being in the Navy so much, or why we love doing like what we do now so much. It's like you have this opportunity to do this important work and like really put yourself into it and use everything that you've learned and everything that you've worked at. Like, can you imagine what it would be like to just work on all these skills that we worked on and never gotten a chance to like apply them or use them? Like, that's what
Mm,
he's talking about. It's like that is such a beautiful thing. Like he's obviously talking about being president, but like life offers us all a chance to work hard at something worth doing. And he even talks about it in terms of whatever you're doing. If the quote goes on and on and on, but it's like whatever you're doing, like if you were back in time mailman like I was, or if you're, doing the jobs that you've done in the past, like or whatever it is, like be the best that you can at that job where you are, and you'll feel good, right?
right.
Like just to have an opportunity to like serve people and help people and change people's days. It's a beautiful thing.
Reminds me of my mail escorting days. There was so much value to that,
Hey
to
man,
others, really. Made people's days.
it was work worth doing, Dave.
It really was.
And you were honored to have that chance. I don't know why you've switched fields. I guess the older we get, I mean,
Yeah.
business dries up. You gotta switch games. You're like, I gotta go to school at some point.
I got to be a therapist now.
These guys aren't gonna take me forever. You know what I mean? So yeah, all right.
All right, Greg, hit us up with
Speaking
the
of
next.
all right, so Oscar Wilde, it's an interesting transition for the people who know Oscar Wilde. I love Oscar Wilde. I think The Picture of Dorian Gray is a podcast that we did a whole episode on, and it hit the way we talked about the flowery, beautiful language, very quotable. But here's a few that I love very much, and I'd like to get Dave's take on these, especially the third one. But here we go. Every saint has a past, and every sinner has a future. I love that, right?
Mm,
It's like this understanding for humanity. Like we make mistakes, and people who view as like these, if you watch like an intervention in the person at the end, some people are like, yeah, that's the best person ever, and they like kind of like forget about the rest of the stuff. But like I I mean, it's true, like these people who like are great and have made it really far in life, and you see them as this like they've had a past. You have to
yeah.
there's some difficulty to get there. To want to be good, you've had to experience some bad, right?
I
And the
mean,
same thing with sinners.
yeah, I think we sometimes can put people on pedestals and be so blinded. And then especially in today's climate where everything has some kind of trail, right? So
Hmm.
suddenly some person that everybody's viewed as, in such a high manner, there's these, maybe it was a tweet that came out that it was, inappropriate or some behavior that came out. It's like we're always so surprised. Why?
Hmm.
Every like you said, everybody has a past, and it shouldn't be so shocking. It doesn't excuse poor behavior, but I don't understand why we're always so thrown off.
I love how you kind of are making that to me just kind of you're revealing to me that it's just what Oscar Wilde is saying here is like we're all human.
Yeah.
Like give it some time and you'll mess up, and give it some time and you'll do better. You know what I mean? We're all
We're
human.
it's interesting. It's an interesting dynamic when someone's actively doing something wrong. We can be way more forgiving when they start to make amends and try to work on it versus when we find out that they long time ago did something wrong and suddenly they're like, you know, driven away.
Yes,
I
that's
I think
so
of
true.
this one really bothered me because I'm not as forgiving as maybe other people were, but like Michael Vick
Hmm.
and the whole pit bull fighting and everything. And
He's
obviously,
forgiven.
me as a dog lover,
Yeah,
that one just was like something I just couldn't get over.
Chris
But
Brown.
Chris Brown is another celebrity that's definitely had a redemption over time. And but then you have others who, like I said, years in their past had some kind of like, you know, some poor behavior that they did, and suddenly they disappear because they don't get that redemption story. I don't know. Maybe there's a different reason. Maybe it's their level of celebrity or something along those lines. But I do think that there's something there to that. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I do, and it is strange, and that's something we definitely see. Like we're very quick to judge as a society, like point the finger, virtue signal, and like that's not always good because I think what Oscar Wilde is saying here is like, wait, you don't know who
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
as I
hold
was
on.
as I was just thinking about it, you know what it is too? I think when it's currently happening and we find out about it, sometimes we'll look to like not validate, but like reason or rationalize why they might have done that. Oh, they must have been going through this, or maybe they have this problem. But when it's someone's like deep dark history and
Mm,
their secret or something like that, we don't rationalize it because we can't like put ourselves in the shoes of what they might have been going through at
right,
that time. So it's
right, absolutely.
maybe that's what makes it different. I don't know.
All right, so it's going on with Oscar Wilde. When the gods wish to punish us, they answer our prayers. I like that a lot.
Okay.
Like just in terms of like you ever like have like a difficult breakup and like oh my God like all I want is for this to work out, all I want is for this, or like all I want is for this success at this job, and then it turns out like at years down the road you're like I hate that job, why would I have wanted that success? Or like you see that person that you broke up with you and smashed your heart on Facebook, and now she's not doing so hot, is she? Okay. All right. So like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and like you prayed. I even in my own experience, like gotten down on my hands and knees and prayed that like someone in my past life would like reconsider when I was younger. And now I'm like, wow, thank God those prayers didn't get answered. To me, that one spoke to me as like really profound. And like I want to say one more, and then I want to get your take on um the third one because I'm very curious about it. So this one, and I don't know if you have anything to say about it. If you do, you do. True friends stab you in the front.
Hmm.
I think that's pretty cool and pretty true, right?
Sure.
They're not a friend if they're not willing to do that. If they're not a good friend, if they're not willing to tell you like to your face, like, hey, you're messing up, or like what's going on, and to have that like if they let you continue with behavior that sucks or down a shitty path or whatever it is, then they're not true friends. True friends stab you in the front. They let you know. They don't tear you down behind your back, but they do bring it up to you.
It's a nice way to think about it. I think that idea that people are backstabbers or doing
Mhm.
something behind your back, it is always nice to kind of be able to think later on that, hey, they were never my friend if they could do that, right?
Absolutely.
They were clearly not someone. Or also the other way to look at it, too, is like, why would I want to have a friend like that would do something, such a action to me? Does it take away the fact that it happened? No, but it is nice to kind of have that. It's almost like the one you just said previously. It's kind of nice. It's almost like a reveal of a person, and you're like, well, I'm glad they're out of my life then, if that's how they were going to act.
And so like the cool thing about aphorisms is like that's an a truth of human behavior, and that's how kind of we all agree that we feel that way. Yet if your true friend comes up to you and says something like, "Hey, you're really fucking up at work," you're like, "Damn, dude, that's not. I thought we were friends." It's like, yeah, we are friends. This is what friends do,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You know what I mean? That's I do like it. This is the one I was really curious about your take, and
Hmm.
you know. And just listen, because I've this has come up to me before. I didn't know this was like an Oscar Wilde thing, and maybe it's not. But anyways, the quote, "Between men and women, there is no friendship possible. There is passion, enmity, worship, love, but no friendship." It's interesting, isn't it?
it
It is an
is
interesting one.
it
And
is
this is funny because
interesting.
Oscar Wilde was homosexual, so it's like he's kind of like pulling himself out of this. He's saying
Sure.
like, look, what in my observation, which are like incredible observation, it a friendship between a man and a woman is impossible. What do you think about that, honestly? This is we're gonna take some heat.
So, I mean, I've thought this before. I've definitely I feel as though it is harder for men and women to have a close friendship without there being some of those emotions that were just described.
Hmm.
And
Especially passion. You
it
know?
is, I mean, it can happen. Like I've had really close friends of the opposite sex at
Yeah.
times. Or maybe, yeah, actually, no, I've had like one or two that I would like say were really, really close. Um, yeah. And I personally, it's harder to get close to someone of the opposite sex because you kind of don't want, maybe you don't want to get those feelings, right?
Right. So that's the thing. You cannot become truly like close because you have to safeguard. Like we have like professional friends at work who are females, but we can't be like going on like, walks on the beach with them at 9 o'clock at night
Yeah,
and like having these deep conversations because like
sure.
there's some truth to that. That's funny. Like years ago in Providence, I worked with this. I can't even give their names because they were both married people. And I watched them, I observed them, and they were not doing anything outside of their like they were really hit it off. They really kind of had this like really fun, funny banter all the time. And I noticed something about them. Because I'm a toucher, I'm a hugger, and like you know what I mean? Like I'll touch your
Mhm.
arm, like whatever. They never ever got within like 3 feet of each other. And the thing that I started thinking is like, oh my God, I think they're both like terrified of what would happen if they allowed themselves to like get that
Sure.
close.
Sure.
I mean, there was just you could cut it with a knife,
The
and they
things
just were powerful,
what you're bringing to my attention is like the things that make people close for two individuals who, if like, who could potentially have an attraction, that would then lead to more than just friendship.
Hmm.
But if you're two individuals who the attraction just isn't possible, if you're, of opposite sex and you're heterosexual,
Yeah,
or same sex and you're homosexual, like, yeah, it just, you can't get that close without there being that, because it's like, wow, I've met someone who's like my perfect match,
I know.
and here we are.
I know.
I could
It's a
have feelings
strange
for them.
thing. Yeah, like it's a strange thing. Like the things that and I think we all kind of, I think it's a common truth that no one really wants to look at. That's the beauty of these things. And people are going to disagree with that, and that's fine. But I think they might, if they're disagreeing with it, maybe, and we could be way off. We are often way off.
Well, we're also both coming from a male perspective
That's
too.
true
So
too.
I do think that's an important thing to
You're
acknowledge,
right.
because
You're
I think
absolutely right.
that maybe a female perspective would give us a better truth of this, like all around.
Mm,
I think we're both speaking from the male point of view. It would
that's
be really
absolutely true.
challenging. I know so many females who are like, I only have male friends,
Yeah,
right? Like
and it's like,
we all know those
mm.
those
And then, but you
people.
say to yourself, like, okay, that's good. But like, if I was to be in a relationship with you, that might make me uncomfortable if you're like having best friend male time.
Well, I mean,
And
I'm
that's
not
just being
gonna lie.
honest.
Yeah, no, in my younger days, that would make me uncomfortable. In my older age,
We're just tired.
less. Just,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't have the time or
It's like,
the
well, I'll go to
energy.
bed early then. You have best friend time, whatever.
Yeah, but I mean, I just makes me wonder if maybe it is more of a male drive, because
Hmm. Or is it a self-deceit thing where it's like if you're being completely
right.
honest with yourself, you're saying, I just want this to be true. Like I know I have control of the situation. I know that there's probably a person that was in a relationship with you might have some uncomfortable feelings about the closeness.
How
I
many
don't,
how many
or
weddings do they say at the wedding, like, I married my best friend? You know,
that's
there's a
true.
reason.
There's a reason you do that. And also, Dave, let us also point out if you're judging us right now, we both have anxious attachment. So
Yeah.
this could be really playing into it,
And
you know?
the last thing I would say is I honestly don't think you can have a full understanding of if this is the case or not unless you have both a male and female opinion.
Hmm.
I do,
That's
because I,
true.
I think a female could say like, no, for me, I can have a close friendship with the opposite sex. But how about
I
the
don't know.
person that you're having that friendship with?
Yeah.
Can they just do it? So
He's like,
you do need
shit.
both sides.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel
Absolutely.
like, you hear about females friend zoning guys all the time. So I don't know.
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
All right, we got to keep this moving. That's actually like going, Anyway, so listen, one more for Oscar Wilde. Some cause happiness wherever they go, others whenever they go. Get it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Happiness when we go and when they leave. All right, great.
You see that when a lot in like the workplace. Sometimes
Yes.
like when one person leaves, it's like, oh my God, thank you.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Yes, you do see that in the workplace where it's like someone was in and like they're talking and you're like, holy shit. Like I'll be happy when they leave and I don't hate them.
Yeah.
It's just you bugging me.
And also sometimes just because I work in, a lot of like group dynamics, sometimes someone goes and it's like, oh, you don't even think about it, like what that dynamic's gonna be like without them. And then when they leave, it's so much better. And then you start to reflect on like, wow, maybe they were kind of like toxic to this environment and or maybe they
Yes.
just had like this negative energy that we didn't even really notice. But now that they're not here, it's like I feel so much more positive. It's interesting.
Okay. So I'm gonna kind of like rip through Ben Franklin a little bit and TJ and Aristotle. Like I'm gonna go through these just rather quickly because I want to get to the next few ones that you're doing because we're taking longer than I thought we would. And we've got a good number of these. But I think they're fun. And Ben Franklin was a genius for these. So you're gonna recognize these. A penny saved is a penny earned. Like hello. It's a truth about life, but it's something that kind of Rocket Mortgage or Rocket Money is really kind of like picked up on. Like what you want to save money or you want to make money. Let's see like how many subscriptions do you have or whatever, right? Like that's
Yeah,
kind of like a common thing now where like you have money that you're making that you're just kind of giving away. He also says that well done is better than well said. Very action based, but we don't need to get into that because Aristotle will take care of that for us. I like this one from Ben Franklin. He says, "He who lies with dogs shall rise with fleas." And that's a really important thing
very
too.
offensive. Very offensive.
Yeah. I know you're a dog person, but I think what it's meant to be is this idea that look, if you're going to hang out with a certain group of people, because there's a philosopher I can't remember who it is who says like you're the mean of the people you hang out with. So like you're kind of like you have this group of people and like you're the middle of that. You're like that's the as good as you can be is like kind of the middle of that. So you want to be able to move that group up a little bit further along and hang out with people who are going to who more align with your values so you can kind of stay in alignment with your values. Because if you hang out with people, you end up in the gutter, drinking all night, whatever. He who lies with dogs shall rise with fleas. Like it's and it is Dorian Gray. Like that was the message in that. Like well, it's not the only message in that, but it matters who you hang out with. It matters who you spend your time with. This Thomas Jefferson quote, love it. I'm a great believer in luck. The harder I work, the more I have of it.
Hmm.
It's a it's like a beautiful little thing, right? What do you think about that one?
So it's also, what would you say, like a little bit of a contradiction, right? Because if you're working hard at it, it's actually not luck.
That's what,
So
yeah. So
he's
it's like
kind
kind of
of,
what he's saying. It's
yeah,
like people are like, "Oh, you're so lucky, you're so lucky, you're so lucky." You get that a lot, right? When you kind of like worked hard, really, really hard to get something, and then people are like, "Oh, wow, like you're so lucky," and it's like, well, I mean,
I have a great example of this. So for my other podcast, like I'm, big in like the horror community online and things like that. So a lot of people message us, and when we have some certain actors of a certain caliber come on as guests or filmmakers of a certain, caliber, sometimes people will be like, "Oh, you're so lucky to get them on." Little do they realize or take into consideration how many years we've been working on that project, how many times we get rejected, how many times I have to like message like and find people's contact info or agents. There's so much that goes into it. And then when they say you're so lucky, or they say, "Oh, can you let me know how you got that?" It's like,
it's
dude,
insulting.
do
And
do your
and
own work.
and here's the thing, a concise, elegant presidential way to say that is, I'm a great believer in luck.
Yeah,
The harder I work, the more I have of it. You know what I
sure.
mean?
Yeah.
And it's like
No,
that's
it's
I love that.
that's really great. I actually kind of just stuck with me a little bit. So
Yeah, right? It's a good one. So Aristotle is always, I love Aristotle. And I love the quote, you are what you repeatedly do, because there's just a fundamental truth of human behavior. And when he talks about like you are what you repeatedly do, that's just it. If you want to be and he breaks it down a little bit too, like even talks about being fit. if you want to, and it's so simple but so true and so hard. If you want to be fit, you have to do fit things. And it's like, okay, that makes perfect sense. But like, am I being honest with myself? Like, I want to be fit, but am I doing fit things? I want to be this person. Am I doing the kinds of things this person would do? And then I almost break it down into like, if you want to be depressed, you have to do depressed things,
Yeah.
right? And that's almost like Aristotle taking like being Marshall Linehan before she existed and saying opposite action, right?
Yeah.
Like if you want to be depressed, do depressed things. Like stay in your bed. Don't eat right. Don't sleep. Don't hang out with your friends. Don't think negatively. Not that we have a choice. I hate when
Greg,
people
what would you tell someone? And like, I'm just asking for,
sure, sure.
I can give advice to other people. If they want to be cool, what
If
would
you
you
want to be
tell them to?
cool, do cool things.
What exactly would those cool
Okay, I'm
things
glad
be,
you
Greg?
asked. Put on sunglasses inside.
Oh,
You know what I mean? Like, phew, what else is cool? Wear a t-shirt with a pack of cigarettes rolled up in your sleeve.
mm,
That's
very
cool.
cool.
What else? You know, be able to ride a motorcycle
Yeah.
and drive a stick.
I
And
hope one day I can be cool.
me too, man.
I'm just always stuck in my office back here, you know,
Yeah, yeah. No, I get
always
it.
sitting on these blue couches.
I love the whole like the simplicity of that. Like, because we are our choices. You are what you repeatedly do. And just do the things that you know what I mean? Like if you are what you repeatedly do, then just be careful what you do, right? If you drink sometimes, that's the beauty of this too. If you drink sometimes, you're not a drunk, you drink sometimes. But if you do it every day, guess what you are?
Yeah.
You are what you repeatedly do.
Right.
If you're mean sometimes or you lose your temper sometimes, you're not an angry, mean person. But check that because if you do it every day, then guess what you are? So be careful. You are what you repeatedly do.
Yeah. So
Perfect.
when someone comes in and they're fearful that they're a certain thing or that they're coming off a certain way, I guess you would could kind of use this line as a way to kind of dig in and say, do you repeatedly do this? Is this
Hmm.
something that you're how frequently would you say you're doing it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you
Yeah.
repeatedly doing it?
Yeah. I mean, because you are
Define
repeatedly.
repeatedly, you know?
Yeah. Well, every day, I think,
Well,
over and
that's
over.
then you are
It's a
actually.
pattern. Then that's what you
Yeah,
are.
you
Remember how
are.
that person, you being an asshole every day?
Wow.
Guess what?
You are an asshole guy.
Guess what you need to do? S Stop doing that.
And if you can't, you're gonna have to leave my office.
And you want to be fit too? Do fit things. And by the way, you're not cool either.
You should also do cool things once in a while.
All right, Dave.
So,
Take us going. Get us going.
all right. This one comes straight from Edith Eger's mouth to your
Hmm.
ears.
Yes.
You can't banish the darkness, but you can create a light. So the darkness will always exist, is what Edith is trying to say. As Miss Eager drops these fine notes on us, I can't help but wonder, am I making light in this life?
Of course you are, dude.
See? So mission
Of
accomplished.
course you are. That's the thing. Like, in trauma, in a shitty life, in a bad, it's almost like that acceptance thing. Like there's an acceptance piece to that and then an action piece to that. It's almost like ACT in a sentence,
Hmm.
right? Like you can't, all right, where are we? We're in the darkness. This isn't good. I can't change that. What can I do? I can create a light and find my way out, show other people the way out. I mean, it's a beautiful thing.
Do you ever watch Dexter, the
Yes.
Showtime show? You've
Hmm.
seen it?
Yeah, dude, like years and years ago.
Yeah. He used to talk about the darkness all the time. He used to always say like the darkness was inside of him. But the interesting thing about Dexter is, all right, so let's say you were born with like this darkness inside of you, right? And that
Mhm.
that darkness is for Dexter is obviously pretty evil because he murders. He has a murderous streak. He has to
Mhm.
satisfy his urges to murder. But he's decided he's going to only murder people who deserve it and make the world a better place. So he's bringing his light into the world.
Yeah, which is complicated.
It's very complicated.
Yeah, I
Not
know.
justifying his murder, but just saying he's making a choice.
I know. Isn't that like what made the show complicated though? Because you're kind of like,
You're rooting for
yeah,
someone who's murdering.
I know. Strange thing.
Hmm. Anyways, anywho's, you are not here to be loved. comforted, and understood. You are here to be loved, comfort, and understand.
Hmm.
Oh, I read it wrong again.
It's
Sorry.
okay.
You are not here to be loved, comforted, and understood. You are here to love, comfort, and understand. That makes way more sense.
It does, and it's a shift. Um, and that sucks in a way. How do you feel about that one? Because I think you should be loved. I think you need to be loved, comforted, and understood.
Yeah,
But I
but
think you
you
do that
can't
by,
you can't expect it if you're not willing to give it. And I think that's important for people to understand. And you see it so often where people walk around expecting to be
mm.
treated a certain way, but do not feel the need to also demonstrate those behaviors.
It's almost like I want to be happy, but like, what are you doing
Yes. All
to
right.
me?
That's
You know
great.
what I
That's
mean?
a great example right there. But also, like, I want people supposed to respect me. Well, you being respectful to everybody that you encounter? Because if you're not, then why should anyone respect you? But also, if someone disrespects you, you don't have to give them respect back, right?
Right.
So, they're making that choice, and you have to understand, like, they have the same choice that you have.
And I think I also really love it actually now that we're talking about it, 'cause it's like, all right, you're not here to be loved, comforted, and understood. Even though like you could take that or leave it. If you just left it right there, that would suck. You are here to love, comfort, and understand. It's like, and to finish it off, by loving, comforting, and understanding people, I think in time you will be loved, comforted, and understood.
Right.
Right?
That's
It
kind
almost
of
comes
I
full.
feel like that's the kind of the point, right?
Yeah, it's just not as elegant if like they're supposed to be like kind of concise and elegant, and that's
She goes
true.
on to say, at some point in time,
Yeah.
they will
If,
love you back
but
and
that
comfort you.
said,
But not everybody will
eventually.
always do that. And some people will have red flag behavior, and you should
Mm.
avoid those people once you notice them.
Right, right, right. Absolutely. Although there is this element that I've kind of had to take on, and I can't think of a better sort of phrase for it. It's not my phrase, but it's something I've adopted in the work that I'm doing at the hospital because you have to do something because people there, like, there's a lot of drunk people, there's a lot of addicts, there's a lot of like malingerers, and there's a lot to deal with. And I think there's this idea of like unmerited love. Like, I have to make this work for me, I have to kind of show them compassion and I have to find a way to do it when it's not deserved. Sometimes it is, of course, right? And it's like some people would say all humans like deserve it, but it's like when you're coming from deception, from a point of deception, it's hard to like comfort and understand people. But like if you're like what I'm gonna do, that's what I'm choosing to do, then you've taken your power back and being and been like, all right,
It's
I'm going to comfort and understand
it's
people.
the basic concept of what is it called? Person centered
Oh, that's
approach.
right. Yes, right. I did mention that to you. I guess that is weighing on me a little
Yeah, well,
bit.
it's the primary focus. And like I said, I was talking to some new interns we had at work. I was explaining to them there is going to be times where you have to be compassionate, you have to be understanding, and you have to be person centered. Um, to people who you in your everyday life may not feel deserve it,
Yeah,
or that you may not agree with their actions, or they actually might be people you struggle connecting with. But it's an important role that we serve.
it is.
So, all right, the next one would be you will not change anything in this world without courage.
Fair.
Basic. No, that's all right.
That's some basic Aristotle shit, actually. But like, it true.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah. You got
it's
it.
like a no duh. That's what you're going with a no
It's
duh
kind of
on
a
that.
no duh, but
Okay.
I guess it's not actually to some people. But honestly, all change is tough. But like to actually make real change in the world, it does take big efforts. That's why you see protests. That's why you see these big demonstrations because and you're kind of taking a risk when you do it. If people don't realize that, then they're not really using their head if they're getting involved in that stuff and not realizing it could be a risk.
Right. Right.
It's like you can't go to a demonstration or a protest
Actually,
or some
you
kind
know
of big
what?
action and what?
You're hitting something here. Like sometimes you feel like, all right, so when you think about like some of the older protests, like in
Yeah.
the 60s and stuff like that, it's like, man, there was courage involved in that.
Oh,
Like,
because it
man, there
was
was
risky
emotion
as
in it. Yeah.
hell.
We talked about the
Yeah.
Black Panthers. We talked about like, civil rights and all that. It's like that shit was risky and it took courage. Now, how much danger and how much courage are these modern protests? Like, is that, and that to no fault of their own, reputation damage, sure, this, that, but like, it wasn't that.
But it but it could be, right?
Maybe
So
it could
there's
be.
always a
Yeah.
risk that it could be. It could turn dangerous. It could turn violent. There could be adversaries there. There could be, it could be some sort of crazy altercation. I mean, remember we had one where it was like fires downtown. There was the police
Oh yeah,
car
I
got
remember
flipped
that. No, that one
over.
was a little bit different. Yeah, that was wild.
The
Yes.
infamous Rhode Island rap group Warwhack, I think
Yes.
it was,
Yes.
where seen on TV.
Yes.
If you guys don't know who they are, you got to look them up on
Rhode Island's
YouTube.
finest.
Um, so yeah, that's a thing. All right. The aim of art is to represent not the outward appearance of things, but their inward significance.
Thanks, Aristotle. Yeah, that's um yeah, I suppose that's true about art, right? I mean, art shows us, reveals
That's
the
the thing.
truth in things.
Yeah.
I think that's
But but is that the whole aim? Like I think people like to make things of beauty, physical beauty.
well, here's the thing. I think yes. I think that Aristotle's right here, and I think I this is why. Uh, in art, a piece of art created by a human being like you or I will always be superior than an AI-driven piece of art because there's a piece of your inward significance in the art too, right?
Mhm.
So I mean, I think,
So one of my favorite things to do with certain like types of film and stuff like that is I love watching them, digesting them,
oh, you
and
love
then
watching films?
yeah,
Okay.
and I love trying to figure out the deeper meanings of some like kind of like the more like I don't know the heady ones, the ones that make you think when you
Uh,
leave. Like I just watched a few weeks ago, or it was longer than that. That movie Sinners. There was so many great themes in that movie. It was a beautiful movie, but like it was entertaining, but also there was so many deep seated things in there that I could have gone on for days with all the different messages. And I think that's kind of the point there. Like you leave there and you look at that piece of art and you kind of like start to understand the world that or the expression of the artist and yeah, there's so many takeaways from things. So
oh
I
my
think
God, yeah,
that's important.
absolutely. That's why I love PC so much because we look at a book like or a play, I should say, like The Crucible, and that's that. The more things change, the more they stay the same. Like how many witchcrafts have we, I mean, witch hunts have we gone through in society, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're almost talking about that like somehow in this episode too. But it's like people being jealous, people, seeing being opportunist and taking from others and putting themselves above every, like that's just tale as old as time, jealousy and envy and all those things. Those are just parts of
Are you
being
guys
human.
going to be doing Jesus Christ Superstar anytime
I don't
soon? Is
think so.
that's
No,
not on your agenda?
no, I don't think so. But I mean, we'll keep it in mind.
Thank you.
We'll
Let
keep it
me
in
know.
mind. Yeah.
Greg, why don't you take the next one?
All right. I will. Carl Jung, heard of him? I hope so, because we did an episode on him. And Dave, you were just talking about theories, and I think this is Carl Jung's take on that. And they are important. So he says, know the theories, master the techniques, and of course, this is all in terms of therapy. And I'll start over. So know the theories, master the techniques, but as you touch a human soul, be just another human soul. Now that's to our fellow therapists and the students. We got like a pretty big contingency of students that listen. Listen, this rings true and truer and truer the longer you do this. You can forget everything you learned about CBT and DBT and everything. You go in there and you try to like understand them and hold space for them. And I hate saying stuff like that. Like, I really do, but it just happens to be true, right? Like it just kind of allows someone to, you be present with them and be like even bear witness to their like emotion and their pain and it's just so powerful like to just be there and you don't really have to know the right thing to say. You just have to say what you feel
Yeah.
and try to understand how they feel and hear them.
So I remember when we had first just started and we had our mentor and we were constantly seeking advice and she had asked me at the time like what's one of your bigger goals and I was like, oh, I really want to learn, get better with some of the techniques. And she kind of like entertained it for a little while, but then I think I was kind of struggling with some of it, like feeling like I really got like some of the details down. And she was like, Dave, you got to understand, like, the thing that is your strength is that connection that you are able to make with the individuals. And that's going to be the thing that makes all the difference. Because
Hmm.
if you can't connect, then you're nothing is going to get across to them. But also it's that corrective experience sitting across from someone who just cares or it listens or has empathy or just whatever it is that they're feeling. That's where the real power comes from in the therapeutic process.
100%. And like, and for some people, it's a dumping ground for them too, and that's
Yeah.
okay too. Um,
It's a big old dump.
it's just dump on me. All right, so Carl Jung again. The world will ask you who you are, and if you don't know, the world will tell you.
And it will say, sir, you are an asshole
That's right. Yes, it will.
because you've done asshole
Yes, you
things
will.
every day repeatedly.
Of course, Carl Jung, like he gives us these quotes that, like, if we weren't already, like, I think almost an hour in, we could probably deep dive on some of these. But I really like this one. I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become.
Yeah, there we go. That's the trauma one right there.
That's the trauma one. That's the attachment disorder one that we are
Yep,
talking about. Like, that's
yep.
the one that's like, yes.
It's the
And how do you,
hardest one though.
it's the hardest one. And how do you choose to become something? What do you do to become that thing? Something repeatedly, right?
Yeah.
It's funny because you could laugh, but like that's kind of true. You have to decide like who I want to be, and you have to decide what kind of decisions would that person make, like in the moment, right?
Yeah.
Like, am I being the kind of person I want to be? Am I being true to
Um,
my values?
so I actually had something I wanted to share because
Sure.
I wanted to share it earlier, but actually now is the perfect time because of that aphorism. I saw, do you know the comedian Cat Williams?
Yes, of course I do.
Okay, I saw him on Friday.
I'm gonna hold
And
judgment because I heard I was given a report by someone who saw them.
okay, he had this interesting set because, he manages to mix comedy with also like motivational speaking in a way. Like you leave there feeling like, wow, I just got a pep talk from freaking Cat Williams while
Yeah,
he
yeah,
also
yeah.
talked about a ton of other stuff and, said some really raunchy things and all this stuff. So it's really interesting dynamic. Um, he said so many powerful things though that I was like really shocked when I left there, and I was like, damn, I feel like I could take on the world right now. But he's like basically talking about older individuals like ourselves and like, of a certain age. If
Okay.
you're over a certain age, he said, you've pretty much already lived one life. Now you live your next life. Like every day, go out and you got to have goals and you got to be like working towards your goals. So I thought that was really interesting because of like the fact it's like thinking of your life almost in parts.
Hmm.
And I never really think of it that way, but it's true because there was like definitely a shift at one point in my life at a certain age where it's like none of that other stuff really mattered anymore. I wasn't feeling it as much anymore. The stuff I was feeling when I was younger, I was like, and that stuff doesn't have to hold me back anymore. But like that also could just be a mind shift too.
It's
Like,
completely a mind shift. And
right,
let me say this to you. Like, all right. When it is obvious your goal cannot be reached, do not change your goal, change the action steps.
sure.
That's fucking Confucius, dude. Not Cat Williams. But like
But
you
he's
know what I mean?
also
Like, but
super
like I
well
get
read,
it.
so it wouldn't surprise me for him to take Confucius and turn it into his own
A
thing.
joke. Yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah, honestly, so that would not surprise me.
that's
So
very cool, actually.
and he just kept saying it, and he kept saying all the other thing he also kept saying is like, basically the message was like in 2025, you got to understand, you guys are all doing a good job. You guys are all doing a good job. We're all doing better than we were last year, the year before. He says, for the most of you are doing a good job. And, it's just like this thing. It's like, yeah, I guess if you look at it, like we probably never say that to ourselves. We're doing the things we're supposed to be doing. We're doing life's responsibilities.
Yeah.
If you're at a Cat Williams show and you spent money on a ticket, you're probably doing an okay job. You're at least working. You're making some money to be able to do that. You're probably holding down some responsibilities. Like you're probably doing a good job. But his whole message was just about like giving yourself some credit, you know, taking a little bit of like ownership for the good things you do, and also to keep working on living your life and having goals and achieving them.
You know
So
what's
I
funny is like he just came like he was like very conspiratorial for a little bit and like
still
it's
is.
and isn't some of it like validated though? Like it seems at least in some
There,
part.
I mean, he's basically torn Hollywood apart with some of the things he's shared, and everybody's turned their backs on him. So a lot of his show is based on like, I'm not going to talk about that stuff anymore because it got me in some heat. But and then
Yeah,
he
yeah,
would
yeah.
drop something about somebody. It was definitely an interesting set.
Very interesting. That's
Yeah,
very interesting. All right. And then hey, look, this might even for Cat Williams, right? And for better or for worse, this aphorism applies to him. You made your bed, now lie in it.
yeah,
Right?
yeah,
So it's like you can choose to take on this, I don't know, force for better or for worse. Um, but,
yeah.
there's consequences for actions,
A
right?
100%. So
Okay.
if you want to, if you made your bed, now lie in it. I think that's a really important thing obviously that's something we would say to someone after they did something wrong, right?
Absolutely. Or yes, absolutely. Or like, or not, or right,
I mean, it doesn't have to be the worst deed.
right.
It could be any kind of deed, but like we
But
make
ultimately, yeah,
choices.
ultimately you're right. That's a kind of like a negative connotation towards it.
But I think it's also important just for people to understand, like, it doesn't always have to be like the worst thing for them to be referring to it about. Sometimes it's like people just get whiny.
Hmm.
It's like, oh, why is this?
No,
Well,
you're right.
no,
That's true. I didn't think about it like
I
that.
think that drives me a little nuts too. Like, all right, so for example, if like you don't take care of yourself, what was the quote, what the aphorism we had about the fuel, right? Food is fuel, or something. That was
Let
mine, I
food
think.
be thy medicine, medicine be thy
Yeah,
food.
mine was fuel is fuel.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Um,
yours. That's
so
a Dave
that's a
Sock.
Dave
Yeah.
Sock one. But I mean, if you do live your life and you don't pay attention to what you're putting in your body, if you don't take care of yourself, and then later in life you have health problems, well, guess what?
Well,
And if
guess
your
what?
whole
I'll answer. Well, guess what? You are what you repeatedly do.
right,
It's ours
and
now.
and you made choices. If you ignore doctors' advice, and we all do it to some extent. I know I don't make all the best choices, but at some point when something happens to me that I was already warned about, it's my
I made
fault.
my bed. Now I gotta lie in it.
Right. Right. So
Thanks.
sometimes we have to say it to ourselves.
All right. We need to, we're going crazy with these. I'm gonna do two more, and
Okay.
fast ones.
All right.
So Lao Tzu, we gotta hit the Taoist because there's always something really powerful with that. The flame that burns twice as bright burns half as long. So be careful. That could mean a whole array of things. And I really like Plato.
Recipe curse Kurt Cobain.
So, dude, right? I mean, there's a 27 Club theme there that we can use that quote to start that episode. So, Plato, who is essentially like the mouthpiece of Socrates. So there we could do a trillion on Socrates, like, but here's one that I kind of like. There is truth in wine and children. And I think that's really kind of profound and smart. And Um, you know, always
There,
forgive your enemies. Nothing annoys them as much.
there's
Things like that.
there's something that drives me nuts about that one though.
What's that?
And I know it's true, like to some extent. When people have had a few drinks, they can
Hmm.
say things and they'll say things with a bolder chest than when
Sure.
they didn't have those
Yeah.
drinks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Totally get it. But if a person is beyond just buzzed, not everything they say is exactly what they mean. Sometimes they will say things because they are feeling a certain way, and it doesn't mean it's necessarily truth. It could just be feeling something in that moment, and it's like they're going with it. Or sometimes, like, so I do think sometimes that gets used a lot, and it doesn't always mean that everything
No, I
someone says when they're
completely agree with you.
intoxicated is
And I
true.
think that like people who are like holding on to like our secret, maybe they're like a infidelity or whatever it is, like our dark secret. I think you can drink and not tell that secret and lie about that and
Right,
and,
sure.
and
So if
lie
you can
about
do
the
that,
secret.
then
Yeah.
yeah,
So I think I think it should just be there's truth in children.
yeah,
Because they, for sure,
yeah, they,
will tell you the
for
truth.
sure,
Yeah.
absolutely,
So
absolutely.
that's something we've learned, I think.
Unless they've been conditioned not to.
Um, Okay. Okay. But most of the time, like if like if I take my hat off and when I have one of my kids in, they might be like, "Oh, I didn't know you were bald. Put your hat on." I'd be like, "Holy shit."
Dude, yeah, I know. I know.
You know what I mean?
They will say just they'll just
They'll let it
point out
rip.
everything.
They will let it rip. So good for them. Um,
And you know what we call them?
assholes.
Hey, you said it,
All
and
right.
you get a pass because
I
you got a
get a
ton of
pass.
them.
Yeah, I get a
You got a
pass.
ton.
All right, Dave. Well, what did you think? Aphorisms, not bad, right?
Not bad, not bad. So everybody, hopefully these are some words that you can all live by, or hopefully this just gave some extra thoughts to some things you're already familiar with. Here's your challenge. First of all, obviously the normal challenge is write us a review and give a rating if you get a chance. We would appreciate it if you haven't already done so. It's super needed on our end in order to help continue to spread the podcast. But also, I would love if you have an aphorism that you've connected to deeply. Let us know. And you know the best way they can do that, Greg?
Patreon.
Yeah. There is a discussion board on Patreon. And I and Greg will go on there and we'll start a little conversation. And my huge urge to everybody listening is join our Patreon, whether you join the paid tier or you join as a free Patreon member. Please join our discussions. Our hope is to get a little community going on there and have some nice educational, fun, informed conversations and just kind of expand on these episodes on there. So if you go on there, we'll start up the chat, drop an aphorism that is important to you or that you find insightful or whatever it is. I don't know, Greg, what would you like to see them
I
do?
would like to see there that to answer that question that we brought up that I know that's going to have some like on the fringe. Is it possible for men and women to have deep, close friendships without,
Hmm.
you know, I guess just leave it there, like without any kind of like innuendo or
Passion, love,
passion, love, yeah, like all
romance.
that Oscar Wilde stuff, you know?
Yeah. Oscar
So
gotten
without
wild.
getting Oscar Wilde, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? That's what we want to know.
So Patreon, check it out. I mean, but if you're not or you can't, share it on share it with us on Instagram or whatever.
Yeah,
But yeah, yeah, hopefully we hear from some people. And other than that, we appreciate you all and we will see you next week.
we'll
So
see you
have a
next
great
week
day.
for sure.
Oh, I am going to make one more announcement really quick. This didn't take 2 seconds. We're no longer doing video episodes on YouTube. If you would like to see video episodes, they will only be available on our Patreon. So YouTube will only have our audio podcasts. So if you're looking for it, or if you're a YouTuber and you're wondering why you're only hearing it, you're not seeing it anymore, that is the reason. Just wanted to clarify in case there were any questions. So Patreon will have the
Patreon.
videos. We'll see you
All
there.
right, buddy.
All
All
right,
right.
everybody. Have a great night. See you next week. Bye.
And so secure attachment is going to be that boring one we talked about. That's you feel safe at home and seen and valued and you've got this continued support. And if you want to see how that manifests in adults, if you're are you a fan of The Office?
Yes.
Jim and Pam's relationship. I always found it unrealistic. You know what I mean?
Nerds, nerds,
Yeah, yeah,
nerds.
like come on. I just don't identify with that at all, and it sucks because I want to.
Yeah, but Jim and Pam's relationship before they were actually together is way more interesting than Jim and Pam's
Absolutely.
relationship
So
when they're together, right?
I think I'll be like completely honest here. Like I feel like I'm really good with the individual and how to be the best agent for yourself and overcome negative thinking, all kinds of things like that for the person. Relationships have never been my strongest thing. I think I'm okay for whatever reason. I do pretty good with the couples therapy, but like just I tell when I tell them things, it's like I don't. That's not what I would do, but it seems good.
Let me also ask you this question. So
Sure, yeah,
you identified having a mix of avoidant and anxious. Do
yeah.
you feel like you were way more anxious as a younger person than you are today? Do you think your attachment style has shifted in one way or another as you've become a 40 something year old man?
I know it's funny because like maybe it is like now that I'm kind of like really thinking about it, I think it just is avoidant. But I'm able to I'm able to recognize that like it's comes from a place of insecurity at times. You
Okay.
know what I mean? So
Sure.
it's an anxiety, but I recognize that instead of just pretending to like I'm not
Ooh.
deceiving myself that like it's all like I don't care. I can if
Is the insecurity based in different things than it used to be? Like I picture like as younger individuals, we're constantly worried that people are going to leave us. Is it still about that or is it about other things in general?
yeah, that's a good question. I don't really know. Like I guess it is kind of always about loneliness in a sense. I think that's the ultimate fear of everyone.
Mm.
Like that isolation and um I think that's ultimately it. Like, um difficult relationships. I think it also, honestly, when I think about it, I think I had my first girlfriend crushed my heart. And I think honestly, since then, it has nothing to do with my parents, really. I think it was
That
that.
see, that's what I always say too. Like
Yeah.
my first breakup that I actually cared about
Yeah.
her, and
Oh,
that
yeah.
stuck with me, and it made me not want to really like let someone else do that to me. So, but then it
Yep.
was
And I
also
really took on that like that because I was my the way I portrayed like presented myself was important to me. So I kind of put up that I don't care, like whatever. And it
yeah,
just stuck with that. And I
sure.
did care.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
And also like it made me for me like the first one happened and I like didn't see it coming
Mm,
and it was really no like to me in my head it was I didn't like have an idea of what I didn't supposedly I didn't do anything wrong.
yeah.
And it just wasn't the person wasn't feeling it. So I think as I got older and I don't even know if I realized that until much later, but like I think that kind of seeped into every relationship was like it
The
could
shoe can
just
drop at any time.
right.
Yeah,
So I'm not
that's
going to let
that's
myself
exactly
be too
right.
vulnerable because if I do, then and yes, it's developed in a lot of different ways. It's interesting because I think it also impacts who you start to look for, what personalities you look for, what you become like attracted towards.
Oh my God, yeah, even at work. So it's funny because so I work at the hospital and I'm not gonna say any names or get too like into this because this is a thing that happened where I kind of tiny so there was this woman that came in and history of sexual assault, right? She happened to be autistic. And so there's one clinician, so there's one person kind of looking at it from the lens that we're looking at it from, right? So this person comes in there, like, so there's the autism there. And so it's a different, it's very sensory input is crazy at an emergency room. So this person's already kind of like on edge, comes off as combative, comes off as like dangerous, comes off as psychotic. And so it's like immediately like, oh, we gotta like restrain this person. And it's a dangerous scenario. We gotta restrain this person. So all that happens. And I'm like, no, like let's not do that. Let's kind of give this a shot to kind of like let this is if there's a history of sexual assault now we've got hands and legs tied. That's a very scary thing for someone. That right back in the moment. That's terrified. So I'm like, all right, we got to give this a shot. We got to at least be able to say that we did this, gave this a shot, and we did, and then it got a little more intense for a little bit, and we ended up having to like kind of do what you have to do from that point. But like everyone was like, hey, you took a safety risk there, and it's like, yeah, but like I tend to come from the place of like we are taking managed safety risks because it's not just about our safety, it's about the safety of the person. More
Right.
importantly to me, like that's what it's about. Like I'm coming at it from the well-being of this person's mental health. And it's a calculated safety risk. This was a younger person who wasn't really like a threat in my opinion. And it didn't end up being no one got hurt or anything like that. But like so when I'm thinking about my anxious or avoidant attachment, I'm like, oh, if they don't like that, I'll fucking leave tomorrow. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
Right.
I
Right.
immediately go there. I don't immediately, I'm not like, oh, well, let me like think about it from a security point of view or from like a medical point of view. I'm immediately like, oh, you didn't like my decision? Okay, well, fuck you. And I'm sorry for saying that. But
I so I'm kind of like that as well. When I get feedback that doesn't
yeah.
sit well with me, I get in my head and then I'm like, I'm gonna quit my job. I don't
Yeah,
need them.
yeah. Talk about like a jump, right? It was like, you know what? I'll quit tomorrow. I
I'll
literally
just
said
quit.
that.
I'll just
I
quit.
quit.
Hmm.
I said like some like, arrogant shit. Like I'm booked out till October. I'll quit tomorrow. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
Like,
don't need this, right?
yeah.
And that also probably is a reason why we have multiple things to like fall back on.
Because we know
So
we'll
we
do that
can say
shit.
that.
You know, it's
Yeah.
just it is what it is. And hey, we all have our things, so hang in there. And so yeah,
I will
obviously,
just add this one last thing. Um, I think when I was younger, it was always about people leaving me. I notice more now my anxiousness or like my like the thing that I'm more insecure about now is like not meeting my full potential in life,
Mm,
which is a weirder thing. It has nothing. I feel like it, but like also that seeps into relationships because I think I would get worried that like if I give too much of myself or I get too involved in something, I won't be able to do the other things I want to be able to do in my life.
mm.
That I feel like. So I don't know. I don't know if that's
Here's the
better
thing, we're all
shift or
just
what.
we're all just works in progress.
Yeah,
That's ultimately. So the secure attachment thing, let's try to let's just something to kind of like aim towards, you know? But like we all got work to do, that's for sure.
absolutely.
Um, yeah, so that's the attachments. I mean, and if you wanted a quick recap on disorganized, just like if you didn't get it, it's just that sometimes your parents flip and sometimes they're fine, but it could be the same thing and you just don't know how to respond. It's just inconsistent violence, punishment, all that stuff. Um, but yeah, no, this stuff's interesting and it kind of it's kind of on the nose, but it's also true, you know? We only have so many choices when we're kids. We don't get to choose who we're placed around. And whatever is the product, we're like a little piece of clay, and whatever the mold comes out of it, it's like, but we're still a piece of clay that can
Yeah.
change and turn into whatever.
If
Um,
you're someone who's constantly in relationships that end in similar fashions or with you feeling confused,
hmm,
do some of this work.
yeah, it's
um
you. That's fine because I know that because it's you and it's also me, and it's also
right.
Dave. Like it's we
It,
like it just is,
it really is. I think if people look at this stuff and try to figure out like where do they fall in here, it helps them navigate relationships a little better. And I just think it can be helpful. So
Huge piece in like relationship work. I'm
sure.
starting to realize,
Yep.
huge piece.
Yeah. All right. Well, another episode
On the ground.
down on the ground.
Yep.
All right, everyone, I'm going to make a huge pitch here. Well, obviously, we are going to ask you one more time. If you haven't left a rating or review, please do so. It's super appreciated and helps the podcast just get shared more often by the platforms that do so. But the other thing I want to ask everybody to do is we've been talking about this Patreon thing that we started. There is like obviously there's the paid tier for the Patreon where you get bonus episodes. Eventually, you'll get episodes that are no longer available to the public. But there's also a free level of Patreon. So if you're not ready yet, if you decided like, oh, I don't want to, contribute money because I don't have it or whatever, no shame in
Yeah,
that.
we get it. Yeah.
There's also a free level. We would love for people to shift over to Patreon. You get the video episodes, which are better because you get to see our faces. So of course that's better. But
Yeah.
also there's other things we can do on Patreon. Like we can start up chats, we can have community discussions. So we would really love to build a community over there. So if you are able to, I recommend shift over to Patreon,
Yeah, start
sign up,
free. Who cares?
subscribe to the page, do the free or the tier for the paid tier to get those bonus episodes. And let's build a little community because there's so many people that reach out to us and they have great stories that they share with us about how some of the topics have been helpful to them or how they connected with others listening to our episodes. So let's get over there. Let's talk about the stuff. If you have questions for us, you have questions for other people, let's have group discussions. I just think there's so much potential here for this to be something so much bigger than
Oh,
just
Dave, you know what?
an hour a week.
I'm doubling down. I know sometimes, Dave, you think to yourself, you say, Dave, is Greg's hard in this? Let me tell you something, Dave. I I don't know how crispy I sound right now, but I want to spend a pretty penny on this thing. So I've just doubled down on this podcast. I got this beautiful mic. You can't see it. I thought you would be able to, but
Nope. Thanks,
it
BetterHelp.
is here. Um, but I mean, this thing's pretty cool, you know?
Nice.
So
And he has a camera that he's got to hook up.
I do, yeah. Yep, that's next. As soon as I get this
Freaking
new,
recording at 720p instead of the 1080 we should be at. I'm supposed to be looking crispy clear right now, but because Greg won't hook us up, we can only.
you know what, Dave, you're right. And I'm glad you put me on the spot in front of all
I gave it to
the
him like
foolishness.
3 or 4 months
Yeah,
ago.
yeah. Thanks, buddy. And I still and we're
I
we're on
gave
that
him a
path.
webcam, everyone, and he hasn't hooked it up
We're on that.
in
We're on that
months,
path. And it's we'll see you soon.
and it's
And
ruining the
I think,
quality of
you know,
our
David, I'm gonna
videos.
tell the people that next week I'm just going out on a limb here It's going to kind of be a tiny bit of a different format, but I'm actually really excited about it because I notice when we use this type of format, I think it's when we really shine. So I'm going to put a lot of pressure on us for this. And also, it's going to be in some ways less pressure. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. So
Um,
if you're listening, please don't be thrown off that the topic title sounds horrible. Just listen.
please. Yeah. Yeah. Give it a shot.
Okay.
I like the title though.
It's people are not going to know what the hell that is. So
Okay, fine.
I'm
All right,
not saying
buddy.
it's going to be a bad episode. I'm just saying the title alone, though, is going to hurt us. But the episode content, if we can
Now
share it
that's,
enough, that will
yeah,
get, we got to
that'll
get
be
it
a
out
banger.
there. So, yeah, we're also on social media trying to upload clips and stuff like that. Share them if you can. We'd love that.
Yeah,
Tell people about us, whatever. Or
please.
make us your dirty little secret.
Whatever you want to do. Just keep listening.
You dirty little
Dirty, dirty.
whatever.
What attachment style is that?
That's that secure attachment right
Dirty,
there, boy.
dirty attachment disorder.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Have a great night. We'll see you next
Ooh,
week.
dirty attachment disorder is dad.
Daddy.
What it is, I guess. Happy. That's for Father's Day. That's a Father's Day
Yeah, it's
episode.
a Father's Day episode. Yep.
Okay. All right.
All right, everyone. Have a great night. See you later. Bye.